I might have forgot where I put the theme song. I don't know where I put the theme song. So this is Rick and Mike watching
Resident Evil
Vendetta. So we saw one of the nice Phantom events, and this time it was Resident Evil Vendetta. Mixed bag, to say the least.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where to begin with this.
Oh, what about the beginning?
The documentary.
Yes.
The documentary before we saw the movie. That was a terrible placement of that, because I went in, I didn't see any trailers.
No.
And I get in there, and we're watching a documentary of the movie, which is spoiling the movie. And it's like 20 minutes, I got out. I just said, screw it, and I went to the concession stand.
Yeah. I mean, I would have went with you, but I was just like, maybe he's going to the bathroom. No, he came back with popcorn. He had a better idea than I did.
Because I was sitting there, I thought you noticed my head was in my hands, and I'm like, don't watch, don't listen. And I know some Japanese, and I kept picking out words. I'm like, no. And what was that ending scene? The guys are just like sitting around, and the guy's on the bus, and they're motion capturing something?
I think they were motion capturing the end of the movie where they're all sitting on the plane just looking around. That's what we
needed to see.
Yes, we needed to see that because there was no bus in the movie, so I'm guessing that was it.
I thought it was just for the hell of it, because the guy was like, even that didn't make sense. He's like on the steering wheel that's facing them,
and he didn't have a mocap.
No, he didn't.
He was just there just because, like, hey, I'm that guy that you noticed because I was the first guy on the screen and the microphone.
But don't knock him. He had the time of his life. Smile ear to ear. Like,
yeah,
that
he
was
did.
Acting school paid off.
Yeah.
Just like this movie for everybody in it. So,
okay.
In context of Resident Evil, fan?
In context of Resident Evil, this was a Resident Evil 6.5.
So are you a fan of the 6.5? Like, are you a video game fan, or are you the movies fan?
I am a video game fan, but I lost interest after Resident Evil, like during Resident Evil 5.
Movie or game? It's sad that we have to clarify, but there's been that many of both.
I saw the first trilogy with Alice, and because I saw the first one. I actually liked the first one. The first movie was really good.
Honestly, I don't mind it either. I saw it, for some reason, during my youth, I saw it like 6 times in the theater, and I paid for every single time. I don't know what's wrong with me. Honestly, now that I look back on it, it wasn't that good.
No, it wasn't. In a movie standpoint, it was nothing. It was terrible.
But to my teenage brain, it was Schindler's List. It was that powerful.
And they played on the fact of these kids love Resident Evil. They're going to watch this a bunch of times because it's the only thing they have. Because they've never made anything about it except for the games. And yeah, I saw the first one, and the only reason why I saw the second was because Nemesis was in it. And I love Nemesis, my favorite character of all time. The greatest boss fight, whatever.
Shakespearean.
Yes, so to speak. Stars.
Stars. I knew him well.
But yeah, and then the third one came out, and that's the tail end for me. Because I was just like, there's no reason for me to see this, but I'm going to the movies anyway, so I guess
But the world became a desert. That becomes so nice.
And then they killed off a bunch of people to bring them back later, I hear. And I'm just like, what is going on? I don't understand this. Why did they have 15 Alices? They didn't explain anything. I'm done. I put my hands down after that. I was like, done.
Resident Evil: The Clone Wars.
Yes.
George Lucas inspired, so you can tell it was the best one. There was some weird ideas that they had, and especially in the first one. They tried to do a whole Alice in Wonderland thing.
Yeah.
And it went nowhere.
Alice.
Yeah, Alice. There was a white rabbit that you saw at the beginning when she was walking through the facility, and then it went nowhere. I don't know if they abandoned it halfway through.
Yeah, I feel like that was like they originally were like, this is all going to be a dream sequence because she fell in the shower, and then they took it to the developers, and they're like, what the fuck is this? No, this is Resident Evil. Zombies kill people, and they're going to get out scathed.
No, I don't think Anderson has that much depth to actually think of something like that.
No.
He just wanted to see his wife do kickflips.
And naked.
2 things I can't argue with, honestly.
No. but still, like, she's naked in every single one of those movies.
Yeah.
And it's just, okay, there it is. You're waiting for the obligatory Mia Jovovich, whatever.
I'm sorry, did you just speak Elvish?
Yeah, I like her. I think she every time I see her in a movie, I think she does her job. But I can't say her last name, and I don't know how to say her last name. So
Jovovich.
Yes. I've heard 4 different variations of that.
Yeah, she's a kick-ass lady. Her pick in what movie she's in is kind of terrible. Like Fifth Element, good.
Cuffs.
Let's not talk about that. Let us not talk about Ultraviolet. See that groan? Just that's more than a paragraph worth of words can summarize with that movie.
Look what this movie has done to us. We have gone to the other Resident Evil movies because they're more interesting.
Yeah, even though Resident Evil has such almost of a obese library. You have all the games, and there's like 7 of them now.
There's more than 7.
We have the movies, which are ranging 6 or 7. We have the CG movies, which are about 4.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5.
About 4 or 5. And sometimes the CG movies have been the better part of Resident Evils.
Yeah.
Especially with the later part of the games when they just got away from what people liked, or at least what I liked. People might like them, but I did not.
I thought they were, like, once 4 happened, I was like, 4, okay. Resident Evil 4, Leon in Mexico. This could work. It's something different. It's fine. Like, I liked it a lot. Once they got into Resident Evil 5 and I realized it was just a copy paste in a different setting where there were different minorities running around that you shoot, like, it's ridiculous. Like, it starts getting terrible.
Oh yeah, especially when it's not racist. Kill tribesmen in Africa.
Yeah.
Little racist.
It is. Like, it just, it got too ridiculous. And I feel so bad for, like, the countries that these people inhabit, because they're like, they just go over and just mass murder people and they have no qualms about it.
And that brings, like, the games are not known for really their plot at all.
No, and that's funny because the first Resident Evil, I'm going to say the first 3 are, well, 4. Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica are the best ones that they've done.
Really?
Just because of the fact that they stuck to the core. Zombies, zombies, and that's it. Like, that's what Resident Evil is based on. I don't know what these things are. They're just, I got that they were different. That's why I welcomed in Resident Evil 4. But when they copy pasted it twice and they sold it to us as this is going to have zombies in it in Resident Evil 6, and it was one storyline, and that's it. Everything else went back to Resident Evil 5 again, and it became Resident Evil 4. Then Resident Evil 4.5, which was 5, and then Resident Evil 5.5, which is 6. Like, they're the same game.
Well, eventually they're making progress.
Sort of. Not really. It's just a rehash of the other one mixed in with different elements. Like, there's just a small tweak, and that makes a whole new game now.
Just enough to get it by. Just enough to be passable.
Yeah.
But the plots in them, like, the first couple the plots were cheesy. And the voice acting and the acting when they had live motion was very cheesy. But it almost had a charm to it because it was so bad.
And it's all they had back then.
Yeah.
You have to admit, you have to, like, think that they had weird graphics and weird cutscenes and bad voice acting because that's all they had back then. What they did was revolutionary. Like, they took...
Has not aged well.
I play through Resident Evil 2 and 3 all the time. I think they're one of the greatest games I've ever played. It's just the whole fact of, like, I'm still scared. Like, at some points, I know something's going to jump through that window, and I wait for it, and it happened. Like, I know it happens, and I'm still like, it's just, it had the best atmosphere. It did have a really good storyline for what it was, and it had
that old 80s horror movie.
Yeah,
like in 4. Like, for me, that's my favorite because it just embraced that camp, and it just, Leon shooting the one-liners, the cheesy villains, it knew what it was, and it just relished in it. And this movie that we saw, I don't think it knows what it was.
It doesn't. It couldn't tell whether it was a video game or a movie.
Yeah, like, and we saw the documentary, and they were like proclaiming how much we want to bring it as a movie. We want to be intense. We want to have scares in it. And I think there was one scare for me, but it was because of a large jump scare and a nice crescendo of the music. But then you lose all that when you have a guy going on the ring road of New York City on a motorcycle fighting two dogs that are apparently doing 60 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And like he's flipping around, he's gun-fooing the hell out of gun kata.
Whatever it is. I call it gun fu.
Driving the bike with his feet, throwing grenades. I mean, it is like a teenage boy's wet dream of an action scene.
Yeah. But we're 30.
And I was smiling because I was smiling for all the wrong reasons with it.
Yeah.
I know they wanted me to be like, this is the most badass thing I've ever seen. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is so bad. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing where he shoots the sign down and it hits the dog in the back of the head and it kills them, I was like, fine, whatever. The moment he took out the grenade and double tapped it with the grenade and drove by with cool guys don't look at explosions.
Oh, yeah. And they've done that. They did the trope in this movie like 3 times where so many characters just not looking at explosions. There were so many cliches along with we were talking about it before. Within 5 minutes of each other, you had I'm holding my dead partner, girlfriend, wife, and screaming, no! And they did it twice
with
in a
a
row.
fire behind them, both times.
Both times. It's just an egregious explosion. And as soon as that happened, I was like, I know what I'm in for with this movie.
Yeah.
And then they had the gall to do it 10 minutes later and show me the same scenes back to back again. Like I forgot about it. Like it was so powerful. Like you need to remember this.
When it opened, when they're going inside the mansion, that whole tense thing, like where they're like looking for the people and then that girl's head coming down from the chimney.
Yeah, they did it really subtly and it was actually a little creepy.
It was good. That whole sequence inside the mansion was actually a very good sequence. Like that whole scene, and then they run. Well, hold on, the only gripe I have about that whole scene was the kid. The whole kid thing where they still, for some reason, this has been 20 years since these things, they know about it. They have dossiers, they have files about what people look like and how they act when they're a zombie or whatever.
I know, they probably have a Facebook post
at
the very
just
least
like,
at this
hey,
point.
this is what zombie does. And this kid walks out and they hear the and they have the blood and the veins and the eyes and stuff and they're like, are you okay? No, he's not okay, you stupid fuck. Like, seriously, enough with the whole, like, I'm oblivious to zombies.
It's another cliche. This movie relishes in cliches. Even down to the main female character, Rebecca, who finally makes her debut into one of these. And they treat her as your princess is in another castle for most of the movie. And, like, you have this badass woman that's been through all these events that can handle a gun, special forces, and she is devolved to just this damsel in distress. And another cliche, this movie has literally found a checklist and was hitting them all.
No, and she did fine. She beat up that zombie barehanded with a freaking, like, the fire extinguisher. She took care of herself. And then after that, done. Once Chris saved her, she got in her mind in this movie that I must be saved. I can't do anything for myself.
Yeah, even during those scenes where you think she's been in this type of environment and everything, she's still cringing and like weeping as she's killing a zombie. But she's been through all this. She had special training, but they still treat her like she's just this helpless woman. Even at the end when they had to get her cleavage out for the last half of the movie, so they put her in a wedding dress, backless wedding dress, short skirt. Wow.
Yeah, and you know what? I said it to you earlier. She was the only one who was perfectly animated the entire time.
Well, they knew where the people were going to come see. I don't know what their target audience is, but I know what they were aiming for.
There are times when Leon and Chris looked so bad And then they backed out, and it was her, and she looked like a blissful morning in the mountains. And they're sitting there with their like really weird, scraggly looking facial hair that still wasn't rendered correctly.
I didn't find it that bad, but I found like the animation sometimes, especially when she was drinking water or anything where it had to be fluid. It was really bad and choppy. Like the frame rate on the rendering would go from like crisp 28, I think, a cinematic FPS. To like 10 where it's just and all the side characters have nothing to do. They're not fleshed out. I don't even know their names. To Chris's like band of rogues, and I don't know a single name.
And when they died, we're supposed to feel bad for them because he's like so distraught that guy's head got eaten by the goddamn dogs, even though it was his fault, because when something's banging around the back of a van,
you don't open it.
That the bad guy just got out of. It's not like it was just a van. We're like, is there people in there? No, there is like things shaking the van. Chris should have been like, don't open that. I know what this is. Don't open that. Leon standing right there just being like, dude, don't. No, they just let him go. They're just like, I'll be fine.
Yeah, we had to get the kill count up.
Yeah. And like every single one except for the 2 people on the Osprey died in his group.
Yeah.
Every one of them. And again, we had no feelings for them. I couldn't know their name. I had no idea who these people are. And I'm just like, he's gonna die because he's not Chris, Leon, or freaking what's her face. Like,
everybody is cannon fodder. Even the main villains, you learn nothing about them. You learn mostly about the main villain, who I couldn't understand if he had superpowers or not, like he was Wesker from the games. I had no idea. The way he was actually taking on Chris, and the way he was just like a kung fu master. That's all I knew about. I thought it was Wesker.
But it's really funny. I feel like they were going through the source material and they were like, this guy's a really awesome villain, and he fights Chris. And then they didn't like read up on the later time, and they took it to the people, and they were like, he's dead. And they're like, crap, we just did all this work.
We just rendered half the movie.
Fuck it, we're just gonna throw him in there. He's gonna have a different name, whatever. But he's Wesker. Like, he literally is Wesker.
And even his background and why he wants the world to burn is a cliche. Like, he's the bad guy. People try to take him out. They kill his family, so now he wants to kill everybody.
We don't even know that he's the bad guy when the bombing happened. We don't even know any of that. Like, we could have just been like, that dude just lost his whole family because of a miscalculation. Like, it could have been that easy. Like, they were trying to bomb somebody else, and oops, they bombed the wrong person.
Yeah, they never make it clear what he was before that. They said he was on a hit list for some reason, like some type of arms dealer.
No reason why. They just said, oh, he's on a list. That's why he got bombed. Well, why? I want to know this stuff. I'm supposed to feel hatred for this guy, and I can't, because all he's done is just take revenge off the people who fucking killed his family. That's all I know.
And you can't argue with him for that.
No, because he has the means. He's going to do it.
Oh, and there's the other cliche where Rebecca Chambers, the main lead, reminds him of his dead wife. And now whoever wrote this script was just like, I like all these movies. I will take this. But put no plot, no character development, no fleshing. I can't even remember when Chris maybe cracked a joke or was actually a human being.
No, he was stone cold the entire time, except for when he was caring about Rebecca. That was it. Like, anytime he was with Rebecca, it's like, are you okay? Are you good? Are you all right? Give me the thumbs up. Come on, you got it. All right, there it is. But every other time, he's just like, God damn it, we gotta do this. You're such a bastard, Leon. You drink because you've been through so much shit. God damn it. You're like, oh no, not your vacation, Leon. Fuck you.
I even like that. I wish they played that up. Like, Leon was on vacation and they had some comic relief right there. I thought they were going to pull it through, but no, they both became super serious and they both became the same character in the end.
Yeah.
I felt no difference between them. And when they started teleporting, it would be Chris fighting the bad guy, then Leon would come in. Chris would disappear, go somewhere else. We wouldn't see why he left, when he left, and he'd be in some other place, and then Leon would fight, and then Chris would come back, and then Leon would go into another place.
Right.
And it was constant. It was so hard to follow.
And like going back to Rebecca, I wish that I had tapped you on the shoulder, but I'm a very good moviegoer. I don't like distracting people during a movie. But at the moment when they was at the wedding and they didn't show her face, I was gonna hit you and just be like, she's gonna look like Rebecca. I knew it from the moment, and then he was like, she lives. I was just like, because that's his wife. Like, she's gonna be the wife.
Yeah, and even with that, like, the director felt the need to make Rebecca's hair color change into what his ex-wife's... Like, we were stupid and didn't know that there would be that connection.
All you have to do is look at the goddamn face. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, there it is. There's Rebecca, fine, whatever. No, they changed her hair 4 different times in this movie. It went from being red to black to the blonde of the woman and then back to, like, a brown.
Yeah, and it just...
It's like the woman in the Technicolor frickin' hair.
Even with there's an evil woman in this movie, and you would think she is like would make up for the badass factor of woman. She does nothing. She is superfluous. You could eliminate her from the movie and it would do nothing, and she's just there to have a lot of cleavage and wear a nice tight leather jumper.
Yeah, like,
and we knew nothing about her except that she had a father and she was friends at the wedding. That's all we knew.
We didn't know how she survived. We didn't, like, because, again, he's the only dude who survived that whole thing. And yet I feel like I could hear some crying in the background, but we still don't know if it's them. And it's just like, just give us something. Give us something to just push this forward. Even just like him picking up her pieces and putting her back together like a freaking Humpty Dumpty. No, nothing. How did the dad become Bane? And he literally was Bane. He was just a big hulking dude who had a mask on. I was like, minus the canisters, that's Bane.
Yeah, in the end, all of it was just thrown together in this mishmash. It had no second act. I would argue it almost didn't have a third act. It just felt like it was one continuous... Well, there was a first act and third. There was no second. And I wish they would have just stuck with a theme. You had the scary mansion at the beginning, and then you had like this small town, like you would think it's like a gunfighting mercenaries kind of feel, and then you had a full zombie apocalypse at the end. You could have stuck with just one of them and made a lot better of a movie. It's just they wanted to throw everything together, and you got this script that it had nothing to it. They just wanted to get to the action scenes and nothing else.
I mean, good job on the voice actors for what they were trying to do, but I tell you, the dialogue in this movie is like, and I'm not lying, it is straight out of House of the Dead 2, down to the monotone boss voice.
Oh, it's a B movie, and in that essence, they have captured the original Resident Evil games.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Resident Evil 1 remake. It sounds like Resident Evil 1 director's cut.
Yes.
Wait, don't go. But like,
don't open that door.
You were almost a Jill sandwich. But,
oh man!
Like the end, the exact end of the movie was busty blonde red hair. I could never tell if she had blonde or red hair because that seemed to change a little bit in the movie.
Yeah,
too.
It did.
She had red eyes. I know that, but I could never tell if she was a blonde or a red.
I think she was actually missing an eye.
Something.
Yeah.
But I know she had one red eye. But you know, Cleavage McBoob Face came into the into the end where the guy's mask that he pulled off to turn into super hulking monster octopus back,
because you need a tyrant in every one of these movies,
which he could have fulfilled by himself. But no, you had to assimilate the bad guy because you needed him to go, Redfield, Perez.
Even that, like, that's a cliche as well, where you think you killed the bad guy and then he comes back and, like, he ejects himself or becomes a monster or something like that. Even the very end is a cliche where it's everybody's dead, and then the one character we thought was dead comes back and is like, now that's going to be the vengeance.
Super powerful. And, like...
No, the woman where, like... the woman you were just talking about, Boobs McFace, where she comes in, and you know that's going to be the next movie if they make one, which they probably will, because they're cheap enough to make and they make enough money. We saw it, and there was a decent amount of people in that theater for what it was, especially on a night that's been like crazy stormy.
Right. And I mean, again, the movie visually was at times stunning. Like, I was like, these faces look very good.
Yes, they did.
For an animated movie. I mean, I've seen video games with far past that where I've actually take Resident Evil 7. There are points in Resident Evil 7 I'm looking and I'm like, that looks so crisp, it's not even funny. That initial driving scene where he's drifting around that curb and the water rippling effects, I thought I was watching an actual movie. It blew my mind. That was fantastic. This looks like they upped the video game just a little bit, like
just a little bit,
just like from like the Resident Evil, let's say Resident Evil 6 Xbox One version graphics in the cutscenes. They just upped that a little bit. It was nothing like at all like breathtaking. It was stunning at some points. Like, there were definitely some things where I'm like, that looks really good, but it was always Rebecca and nothing else. Like, Chris looked terrible. Leon looked terrible in this movie. He looked like he was
emaciated. He looked very thin, especially his face. He looked like
Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3 after he gets the black suit. That's what he looks like.
If he would dance in the bar, I would have given this movie a little bit more credit.
Yeah.
But with it, like, as you were saying, with those visuals, it should have just been steady. Like, you don't have to make one stunning and one piece horrible. Why not just make it consistent? And that would have been a better overall style of the film. Instead of jumping from really high quality to low, it makes those points of low so jarring, and they stand out. Like the cars, if you looked at any of the background where there was any motion, there was no detail. It looked flat. It was it stood out. It took me right out of this movie for any instant that this movie got me. The action scenes, they're so over the top that I wouldn't mind watching them again.
Right.
But I wouldn't pay for it.
No. I'd watch this on YouTube.
Yeah, you would watch those scenes on a YouTube for maybe like a minute and be done. It's like, I got my fill. I got the best part of that movie.
This movie, final grade for me is a 4. I mean, it's not... It would be a 5 if they didn't show half of the movie before the movie.
Well, what's your idea of, oh yeah, that was a really bad choice.
That really killed it for me because there was no surprises. There was no like, oh, that's awesome, that's cool. They showed half of the action scenes in the movie, and I was like, all right, now I'm just watching the same thing they just showed.
Yeah. You took us right out of the movie before we even got into it.
Right.
And now, what's your idea of a 5 movie? Is that like average for you, or is like 7 an average?
7's an average. We're going Catholic school because I was in Catholic school. 6 is a failing grade. The 6 is redeemable. If 7's average, 7's good. 8 is really good. 9 is well above average, and 10 is perfect. This is a 5 because of the fact I don't think it's redeemable. There's nothing you could change in this movie that's going to make it like that much better for me without scrapping an entire segment of the movie. That's what I don't like. It's too disjointed. It's too like
all over the place. It doesn't know what it wants to be.
No, and I think they had a really good idea, and they gave it to the wrong person.
Well, the documentary at the beginning hyped him up so much.
Oh yeah, they were going for it, and then I was like, you just ruined it. Like, you ruined all of this, and that's what brought it down to a 4. If I'm going just movie, like I went to the movies to watch this movie gets a 4. If I didn't see that stupid documentary in the beginning, I would have given it a 5. But that point ticket off.
You are more generous than I, sir.
You're giving
3 at best. I want story. I want characters. This had nothing. If I knew nothing about the video games and walked into this, I would just call them big man who screams a lot, skinny man who screams a lot, and woman who gets captured. That's all I could describe them. Nothing but their job I could describe.
Right.
Like, she's a scientist. He's a soldier, and I guess he's a soldier too. And even at the end, when they make it all well, they find a cure for the zombie plague, and even that doesn't make sense. Like, that would kill more people than it would save, and like, they do a whole 9/11 scenario in the middle of New York by blowing up like 4 buildings out of nowhere with this super weapon that no one's seen before, talked about, or even like mentioned in passing.
We're supposed to think that this is the rail gun.
Yes.
That she missed from 30 yards, that she had a clear shot from, no obstructions, and she missed.
Well, that's because she's a woman, and in this movie a woman can't do anything.
Apparently, yes.
Which is
exactly
terrible.
I mean, there are so many badass characters in the Resident Evil franchise. We have Claire. We have Jill. 2 of the most badass. I pick them all the time when I play the games because they're so freaking badass. and yet we scrap them for these no-name, like, ace-in-the-hole soldiers that have, like, a redeeming quality or they die.
I thought they all died.
No, the people on the Osprey lived.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, again...
I wish they died.
They should have died because Leon threw a freaking motorcycle at them and exploded the tank. That would have knocked the Osprey out of the air. Like, that explosion would have thrown her out the freaking back. She wasn't buckled in.
No.
And like, again, you're going back to the ending where they sprinkled the magic dust on the people.
Yeah, even that is a cliche. Like, Deus Ex Machina, this is something that's been here. It will solve all our problems. Let's go get it.
Right. However, we were talking about this in the car, and it still bothers me how they sprinkled the magic dust and everyone's okay, except for the people who were immolated, eaten, probably under a car somewhere.
Yeah, missing half their throats.
Yeah, like...
walking around as zombies with big holes in their guts.
As a zombie, you don't care about that. As a human, you're going to die.
Yes.
It was bad. Like, that part really bothered me, and it left a really bad taste in my mouth. People, if you're ever going to listen to this and you're thinking about making a movie,
come on, we have a devoted fan base of our friends and family who are obligated to listen.
Yes. If you're going to make a movie, don't write don't write superb plot holes. Every movie has a plot hole. Don't write one where it makes people go, but why? There's no reason for it. There's no such thing as lazy writing. You have to draft stuff.
Oh, I believe there's lazy writing, and we just witnessed an hour and a half of it.
No, I meant there should be no such thing as lazy writing.
Yes.
Like, look at what you do. This is a message for these people who wrote this movie. We don't understand it. I should not exit a movie going, what was this, and this? There's no reason for it.
I just hope they use it and learn from it and make something better next time, because there's going to be another one.
There's going to be another one with Tits McGee.
Well, I hope they make it better.
Well, we'll see.
All right.
Signing off.
Au revoir. This is Mike from Base Command. Chris, have you found the outro?
No, I haven't found it yet.
Wow, okay. Take the sass down just a smidge.